generations. We sing the songs, but man, we've got to live it. Brother Drew, we were recently talking about the church at Laodicea. And I've done, as I'll often do after conversations, I'll stew on it. And I'll just keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. But we were talking about how in Revelation chapter 3, the church at Laodicea is rich and in need of nothing. And I had kind of initiated the conversation because in Luke chapter 18, Jesus said, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? And that of course, is a chapter that's dealing with prayer and the faith that Jesus was, it applies to all sorts of faith, but the direct interpretation is to prayer. And so Jesus said, when I come back, am I going to find anyone praying? Now, prayer is an admission of need. So I was just going to roll with this tonight because I'm off on this thought. It's not really a tangent because it's connected to verse 1 in our text. We just may not get very far tonight. It's connected to the fact that when I think about Laodicea being rich and in need of nothing, there are some people, and again, I hate to always quote Elon Musk, but I would say he's the world's most interesting man right now. He says that he is of the opinion that within the next decade, any of us who are trying to save for retirement, it won't even matter. And that's the worst thing I could say to some personalities, definitely. But he's saying it's not even going to matter because he's saying that there's going to be universal income due to robotics that is going to just supply everybody's needs. He believes that. Now, he's not always right. But he actually believes that. And I'm thinking, so we were just having a fun, my dad would have called this a campfire conversation, except he would have been doing what I'm doing right now. If you know, you know, for sure. Right, with all the, come on, Mom, with the current events in the world, do you think we would have got through 5 minutes of church? I mean, it would have been, right? It's just the truth. It would have been fun, but it's just true. So my little rabbit trail conversation here, maybe there's going to be wealth that increases on the planet in the next handful of years to the point where there's no needs. Then Brother Drew, who's a pretty practical thinking man, he says, but yeah, don't you think that already compared to other places, we're already at that point? And I've done a lot of stewing about that. I agree with that. I do think that. You know, just going out and watching folks come to the door in Riverside, no offense to anyone, but I've got a lot more than the people we were witnessing to yesterday afternoon. It's just the truth. All of us do. Brand new here. And the things that you wouldn't wear, a lot of people we're trying to invite to church would love to wear the things that are in the back of the closet. That's one of the thoughts as you were witnessing that I was having yesterday. I thought, wow. You didn't know I was thinking that way, but on the way back to church, Brother Tim, you said to me, you said that Dave Ramsey says that immigrants, like first-generation immigrants, are more likely to be a millionaire right now for a few different reasons than folks who are maybe 4th, 5th, 6th, 12th generation Americans. And he said because their expectations are lower and they're not spending their money on things that don't matter. Think with me. That triggered some thoughts, and we were just, it's conversation. You know, one thing leads to another, and I thought about the gentleman that was the worker at 7-Eleven that is in Morristown on Lenola Road and the Marne Highway, Camden Ave there, that as a teenager I would walk to after every church service, either McDonald's or 7-Eleven. Guy's name was Taj. He's from Bangladesh. And every single time I ever went there, Taj was at 7-Eleven. So my friends and I, we befriended him, and we would talk when we went in. I guess I've always been that same person. I'll get free coffees and different things, places I go, and my wife says, what's up with that? And I always say it's because I talk to people there. And I don't know. And so Taj, and we would get, truth, Brother Nate, we would get sodas from, we would sometimes get fountain sodas from Taj. It's true, it is true. But one day he wasn't there. And I asked the guy, I said, where's Taj? And he said, he owns the store now. And what Taj did, Taj lived he had a roommate, and he lived in a small apartment, and he worked for 7 or 8 years, double shifts, and he saved his money, and he saved his money, saved his money to the point where he bought the store where he, like Americans would have said, I'm a slave to my employer. No, he had goals. And he wasn't wearing the fanciest clothes. He wore his 7-Eleven polo. And he achieved in under a decade. Now, guess what? That's not the end of his story. Brother Steve Osmowski has told me that Taj ended up owning 2 7-Elevens and a Dunkin' Donuts. How you like that for a first-generation American? All right? What am I talking about? I don't know, but you're enjoying it tonight. So I think I'll keep going. Truthfully, we are talking about contentment. And Moses gave up everything that the world had to offer for God. He chose to suffer affliction with the people of God over enjoyment of the pleasures of sin for a season. And so I do think that we've got to adjust our expectations. And I think as a starting point, we ought to express to God the depth of our thankfulness for all of the many kindnesses that are in our lives. If the Lord tarries is coming and you were to ask me, where do you see our church going in the next, what are we going to do together in the next 15 years? Here's what I think we're going to end up doing. I believe that we'll end up seeing God do this building for us. I think it'll be paid off. I believe someday that we're going to own the available properties over here to us. I think we'll see a bus garage go up. I think that we're going to have 10 van routes / bus routes that any which way from this area, in other words, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria. I believe that we're going to infiltrate those areas for God. I think it's what we should do. And those are my intentions. You've heard it here. Some of you know because we talk in private. I don't know if I've ever quite told you all that all at once. But those are the things that I'm praying for. And then I believe that we are going to, my prayerful goal is be a church like the church at Rome, whose faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. And I think we're going to be involved in, for certain, annual and the biannual mission trips, maybe twice a year, going overseas and using the skills and the talents that we have and taking the gospel. I mean, you start thinking about it. This is where my heart is at. These are the things that, by God's grace, if He lets us, I believe this church is going to do by the grace of God. And we'll do it in faith. We'll do it together. And stick around. And we're going exciting places together by the grace of God, right? And little by little, inch by inch. So Moses, the only house he ever owned, if you will, he gave it up and he lived in a tent for the rest of his days. The rest of his days. And he did it to follow God. He did it in pursuit of God. Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hast formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Verse 3, thou turnest man to destruction, and sayest, return, ye children of men. Let me help all of us out. God is in full control of our final moments. I don't know when I'm going to die, but I know, barring the rapture, there will be a day that is my last. And I'll go the way that everybody else does, and that is 6 feet under. And again, I'm looking, and man, oh man, do I believe we're in the last days. And I believe we're going up, and the trumpet could be at any moment. I'm waiting for the imminent return of Christ, but I don't know for certain. No man knows the day or the hour. I don't know how many days I'm going to get. I have no guarantee that I'm going to live the length of days that God suggested were available to man in His Word. I don't have a guarantee of that. I don't know. And there are some within the church, we joke about it. They ask me about their funeral, and I say, you'll probably be carrying me out the door. It's probably not going to be, it may not be the way that you think it's going to be. And I really do talk about that. And you're in the room tonight, you know that we talk about this. And so in verse 3, we see that God and God alone is in full control of our final moments. In Genesis chapter 3 and verse 19, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. Well, that certainly connects to the idea of materialism and pursuit of it. How foolish is it? We're literally going back in the ground, and we are going to decompose until resurrection day. And we're not taking anything with us to heaven except what we did for God. And so God is in full control of when that moment comes. And the only thing that we can do is prepare for it. Number one, get saved. And number two, be in pursuit of God. Serve him with the best of your abilities. Serve him with the best of your thoughts. So I mean it, like dream for God. And say, God, what can I do to impact my generation, to impact my church? There are so many things to do for God. I'm pretty certain we may end up needing a nursery for that 1 o'clock service on Sunday. That's a simple thing that isn't so simple. It's a big thing for God. I'm just saying, as we sang Sunday morning, little is much when God is in it. Labor not for wealth or fame. Somebody understood the concept that Moses did. There's a crown, and you can win it if you'll go in Jesus' name. So in Genesis 3:19, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. Look at verses 4 through 6. For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past. Ain't that the truth? You look back, no matter how old you are, if you're kind of inching through your 20s, I'd say you're old enough to realize that life is speeding up. You hit number 30, and it's starting to get real. You hit 35, and you realize I just passed, in the game of life, the halfway point. I hope I just passed the halfway point. Should I stop there, or should I keep going? Right? Should I stop? I can only tell you about the next 4.5 years, so you're going to have to fill me in how it goes after that. But you get what I'm saying tonight. You look back, and it's like, man, that was fast. You look forward to vacation. Amen. Amen. There we go. You look forward to vacation. Nothing wrong with that. But then when it's all over, what does everybody say? That went what? Fast. That went fast. Is that not what life is like? Moses is saying, if you live to be 1,000, you're going to get to the end of it, and